Hello and welcome into this RNN Talks right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On this RNN Talks, this is a show we did a while back. Bringing it back here a little bit different. We're going to splice in some news with a little bit of opinion and talk about things happening around the NASCAR world and the ARCA world, K&N world, that kind of thing. So you're going to get a little bit of news, a little bit of opinion, that kind of thing here on this show. So today's RNN Talks, we've got a couple things to talk about here. First off, the bit of news that you probably haven't heard yet if you have heard the other two. Logan Seavey will be back in an ARCA car this month, or I guess not technically this month yet, in August at the ARCA Dirt races at Springfield and DuQuoin, the same races that he ran last year with Venturini Motorsports. He'll be back in that 20 car this year for Venturini Motorsports, trying to defend last year's win at DuQuoin. At Springfield, he started 4th, finished 3rd last year on the dirt, and then came out and won at DuQuoin. Dirt track ace in Logan Seavey. He has had so much success on the USAC side of things on the dirt. Almost won at Eldora last year in the trucks too, actually. So he's definitely got the pedigree for it, and happy to have him back here in the ARCA garage. And you know we will be talking to him when we get to Springfield and DuQuoin. He's always a fun one to talk to. Great kid. So that's some exciting news coming out of the ARCA garage. Some interesting news coming out of the Cup Series garage a couple days ago, or actually it might have been yesterday. Jimmie Johnson, for the second time in less than a year, has a new crew chief now. Kevin Meendering is out. He is still with Hendrick Motorsports, but not in a crew chief role. Cliff Daniels has moved over to crew chief that 48 car here for the remainder of the season and for the foreseeable future. Interesting decision there, to be completely honest. Yes, Kevin Meendering wasn't exactly putting up the best results with Jimmie Johnson, but it seemed like they were starting to get better of late. But it also seems like Jimmie is kind of crediting that to Cliff Daniels, as Cliff came back with the team at Sonoma and has been with the team in a different role ever since. And Jimmie made it sound like that it's been since Cliff came back that team has kind of turned a corner and been running better, which I think they have. The results aren't really there to show it, but they won a stage at Pocono this week. They were running up front in the top 5 a lot of the day, so that 48 car does seem most weeks like they do have a little bit more speed right now. I don't know if you can attribute that to one single person, but it might coincide with it. The interesting thing about this to me is the fact that you're getting rid of a crew chief that has Xfinity experience, that has a half season's worth of Cup Series experience, and you're bringing in a guy that has never crew chiefed at all. We have not seen Cliff Daniels as a crew chief in any level of NASCAR, but yet you're going to bring him in with this 7-time champion who has been struggling for the past almost 2 years now, since about the middle of 2017. You're going to bring him in and put him with this 48 car, never been in a crew chief role before, and expect him to turn that team around in the next 5 races and help them get into the playoffs. I don't see the logic in this, to be completely honest. Cliff Daniels may turn out to be a fantastic crew chief, but I don't think he's going to be the savior that team needs in time to get into the playoffs. I think, personally, this is the moment that is completely killing Jimmie Johnson's chances at getting into the playoffs this year. I think moving Cliff Daniels into that crew chief role, that seals it. Jimmie Johnson will not make the playoffs this year. I would love to be proved wrong. I don't think it's going to happen, though. They've got 5 races to gel and make something happen here before the playoffs to get into the playoffs. So he is currently sitting outside the playoffs, and you throw in a new crew chief who has never crew chiefed in his life. Again, Cliff Daniels may turn out to be a great crew chief. I just don't think the timing is right here. I think this should have waited until the end of the season. Jimmie Johnson's got at least one more season left with Hendrick Motorsports. Either do this earlier in the season or do this at the end of the season. 5 races before the playoffs, I think you've just killed that 48 car's chances of getting into the playoffs. I don't think this was a smart move on Hendrick's part. And to be honest, this may have been more of a Jimmie decision. The cryptic talk, almost politically correct talk around what Kevin Mindering has done for that team and what Cliff Daniels can bring to the team. It almost sounds like Jimmie was the one that said, hey, I don't think Kevin and I are gelling. I don't want Kevin as my crew chief anymore. He's a great guy. I just don't want him as my crew chief anymore. I think that's what happened here. If you read between the lines, that seems to be what kind of happened here with this whole situation. It's unfortunate because I don't think Kevin Mindering was given enough time to really show what he could do as a crew chief in the Cup Series, but it is what it is, and that decision has been made, and we will see what Cliff Daniels and Jimmie Johnson can do going forward. The other piece of news, it's a couple days old at this point, I realize that, but I wanted to talk about it because I have a very strong opinion about this. It's the way we're going to set the starting lineup for the second race of the Pocono Doubleheader in 2020. You've probably heard this by now. If you haven't, we'll catch you up real quick here. For the second race of the Pocono Doubleheader in 2020, the field will be set by inverting the finishing order of the first race, specifically inverting the lead lap cars. So, in essence, the last car that finished on the lead lap in Saturday's race, the first Cup race of Pocono in 2020, they will flip the finishing order of the lead lap cars, and that last car on the lead lap will start on the pole for Sunday's race. Now, this might work at some other tracks where we might have 10, 12, 15 cars on the lead lap. But how many cars finished on the lead lap in Sunday's race at Pocono? 25. 25 cars finished on the lead lap Sunday at Pocono. Do you know who would start on the pole if we took the finishing order from Sunday's race and ran another race on Monday and inverted those lead lap cars? Michael McDowell would start on the pole. Matt Tifft would start in third. And then you put race winner Denny Hamlin back in 25th. This doesn't make any sense to me. I know I've seen a lot of talk around the internet about how, local short tracks do this or other forms of racing do this. NASCAR is different than local short track racing or road racing or whatever other forms of motorsports do this inverted field thing. And it might work if you've got a smaller field that you're inverting. If you're only inverting 6, 8, 10 cars, whatever you're inverting at a local Saturday night short track. That is different than inverting 25 cars that are drastically different than one another. Michael McDowell and Matt Tifft are not race-winning cars. I'm sorry to Front Row Motorsports fans, but they are not race-winning cars. And to put them in the front and mire the car that just won the race back in 25th, that is clearly, if not the fastest, one of the fastest cars at Pocono, to mire them back in 25th and say, hey, you just won this race, but now you're going to be almost in the very back of the pack, and you've got to fight your way back up there. What kind of... It just doesn't make any sense to me, because all you're going to do is you're going to create chaos. You're not creating entertainment, you're creating chaos. We are turning into the WWE. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. This is not about the gimmicks. This is not about staging things. That's the next step here. Once we start doing things like this, there's all these people that already believe that NASCAR is rigged. It's not, but there's all these people that think it's rigged. That's the next step here. Once we start doing things like this, and if we're going purely for the entertainment side of things, why don't we just rig everything? Or if we just want to make it as exciting as possible, if NASCAR goes into things pre-planned and knows what's going to happen and knows it's going to be the most exciting thing possible, then why not? If that's all we're going for is entertainment and not good on-track racing product. Because there is a difference in what is entertaining and what is a good on-track racing product sometimes. And that's the worst part about this, because what you're going to get with this is you are going to get slower cars that don't need to be in the front of the field starting in the front, with the fastest cars in the field starting 20th and back. And you're going to have cars going 9 wide on the front stretch at Pocono, and I guarantee you that is not an exaggeration. I guarantee you somebody's looking at their computer screen right now going, oh, that's an exaggeration. They're not going to be that many. I guarantee you, watch the Sunday race on 2020 at Pocono. They will be 9 wide at the green flag on the front stretch because the guy that won Saturday's race is back here in like 24th, and he's trying to get up to 5th by turn 1. So what we're going to end up happening is we're going to take the green flag with Bubba Wallace on the pole and Matt Tifft on the outside pole, 2 cars that clearly do not need to be in the front of the field because they are not fast enough to be up there. We're going to have them starting on the front row, and then you're going to have Kyle Busch back here in 26th, going 9 wide down the front stretch, trying to get up to 5th by turn 1 because he knows he doesn't deserve to be back there and doesn't want to be back there. And meanwhile, you're going to have Ricky Stenhouse causing a Daytona-style big one on the front stretch that takes out 20 cars because he's trying to make up the 3 spots that he lost being inverted in the middle of the field. I'm sorry to the Ricky Stenhouse fans, but that's just how it is. That is what is going to happen with this. NASCAR, if you see this video, I don't know if NASCAR is going to see this video or not. Probably not. But this is not how to do this. The best way that I have come up with to make this work, and there may be a better way out there, but this is the best way that I have come up with for this. If you don't want to run a separate qualifying session on Sunday, which I understand, you've already got an Xfinity race Sunday morning, early afternoon, whenever the Xfinity race ends up being. You already got an Xfinity race that day. You don't want to run another qualifying session for this Cup race that day. Start the field based on lap times from Saturday's race. The driver that had the fastest lap in that race starts from the pole, and so on and down forth. You just use what each driver's fastest time was, and you start based on that in that order. That is, I mean, in essence, that's basically what we do when qualifying's rained out at this point, because we're just using practice speeds. In essence, that's essentially the same thing. That would be the way to do this. Yes, you're going to have the fastest cars up front. You're not going to have as exciting of a green flag, but would we rather have the best cars up front battling themselves for the lead and not have cars that are 10 miles an hour slower than them holding them up in the beginning of the race for no reason? Would we rather have the fast cars up front than have a 20-car pileup on the first lap because Ricky Stenhouse doesn't know how to get through traffic, and go from a 38-car race to a 20-car race at the green flag just because of some gimmick NASCAR wants to throw out here? And I know gimmick has become a taboo word at this point because you've got some fans that use the word gimmick a little too much for things that get thrown around and rule changes that get made these days in NASCAR. But this really is just a gimmick, and this is not how things should be. I 100% disagree with this. This is going to be a disaster. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there that think I'm overreacting about this, and maybe I am. But the fact of the matter is there are better ways to set the field for the Sunday race in this doubleheader, and NASCAR might have picked the worst way possible. So, I'm going to get off my soapbox for that now. I don't know how often RNN Talks is going to be a thing here. We're going to try to get these out as much as possible. We're probably going to miss some news items. This probably won't be something that goes out every day to get every single piece of news that happens out. I just don't have the time for that until this becomes a full-time thing, which doesn't seem to be anywhere in the foreseeable future, even though we are growing slowly, and I do appreciate that. Welcome to all the new people around here. But until this becomes a full-time thing, this is definitely not going to be a daily thing where we discuss the news happening around the NASCAR world. But I'm going to do this as much as possible, especially when there's things like this Pocono setting the field that I really have a strong opinion on, that I feel like I need to talk about. So Yeah, we're going to do this as much as possible. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about not only the Pocono qualifying for the doubleheader next year. Let me know what you think about the Jimmie Johnson-Cliff Daniels pairing and Logan Seavey being back for the ARCA dirt races here in August. So I'd love to hear your opinions on all of that down in the comments below. If you haven't done it already, you need to hit that subscribe button down there and ring that bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. And apparently, I didn't realize this, but apparently hitting that share button is a big deal to YouTube. I didn't realize it was as big deal as it is, but if you hit that share button, even if the person you send it to doesn't even watch the video, apparently YouTube just likes it if you hit that button. So that would help out a lot if you hit that share button, and just hit that big thumbs up button while you're down there. That helps out a lot too. It lets me know that you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed this type of video, and lets me know that we can do more in the future, and it lets YouTube know you liked it as well. But I think that'll do it for this RNN Talks diecast review coming up tomorrow on Wednesday as well. We're doing, Kevin Harvick's Texas win this week, I believe. Texas playoff winner from last season. So keep an eye out for that. Trucks at Eldora on Thursday, Cannon East, Xfinity, and Cup at Watkins Glen this weekend. So lots of rewind shows coming up this weekend as well. But that'll do it for this RNN Talks. As always, I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.